Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. The NBA playoffs are here, and Michelob Ultra is getting you closer to the game than ever with courtside seats and more. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Superior Access Courtside 2024 to 2025 sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Ends on July 1st, 2025. Multiple entry periods. Visit MichelobUltra.com/superior access/courtside for free entry deadlines and official rules. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
So good, so good, so good.
Great gifts for mom? We've got them. And they're up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack stores now.
You know they have Marc Jacobs?
Gotta show mom some love.
That is so good.
Snag amazing deals on Mother's Day gifts from Barefoot Dreams, Kate Spade New York, and more. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus.
And here we go. Welcome to the program. Thank you for listening to Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. This is a third year bonus. This is a solo episode. What happens? We don't know. We don't know what happens until the unfolding, the great unfolding will occur. I can't tell you what I think is going to happen. First of all, maybe this is your first time ever listening to the show. Real quick, my name's Ryan Singer. I've been doing stand-up comedy for over 20 years. That's how I've been making my living, scratching through this existence, right? I am obsessed with all things paranormal, metaphysical, esoteric, and mystical. I've had some, pretty profound experiences. Some of them have been sought after, and some of them were spontaneous. I guess what you would call a SPE, a spontaneous paranormal experience. And today, that kind of ties into, we're going to talk about spontaneous out-of-body experiences. Because I'm doing the Gateway Voyage guided meditation program, as many of you know who listen to this program. I had a pretty intense thing happen last night, and so we're going to discuss some of that on tonight's show. Oh, let me silence my phone. Sorry, but okay. So we're back. Sorry about that. My phone never goes off until I hit record. Let me just read you an excerpt from Journeys Out of the Body. This is page 119. Robert Monroe's first book. The moment I left the physical, I became aware of three beings in the room. I stayed cautiously close to my physical body as they came nearer. They started to pull at me, not hard, but deliberately, as if to see what I would do. They were having a good time at it. I tried to stay calm, but there were three of them. I wasn't sure I could get back into the physical quickly enough before they pulled me away. So I prayed. Again, I used every prayer I knew. I asked God to help me. I prayed in the name of Jesus Christ for help. I tried a few saints I had heard of through my Catholic wife. The result? My tormentors laughed loudly and worked me over more enthusiastically. Listen to him pray to his gods, one chuckled contemptuously. Listen to him. I think I got a little angry after that. I began to push back, got close to my physical body, and dove in. I wasn't exactly fighting back, but I certainly didn't remain passive. I sat up in the physical, most relieved to be back. When he says the physical, he means his body. Even as I sat up, I heard a child crying. It was coming from the room beyond the wall. I waited several minutes expecting my sister-in-law to come and calm the little girl and get her back to sleep. After some 10 minutes, the little girl, Jay, still had not stopped. I got up and went out to the adjoining bedroom. My sister-in-law had the little girl and was still sobbing deeply in her arms and was trying to comfort her. I asked what was wrong and could I help. She'll be all right in a little while, I think, my sister-in-law replied. She must have had a nightmare or bad dream, and I can't seem to wake her up. I asked how long the girl had been crying. Oh, just a few minutes before you came in. She isn't like this. She usually sleeps very soundly. I offered again to help if needed and went back to my room. Sometime later, little Jay quieted down and evidently went to sleep. Was my niece's trance-like nightmare a coincidence, or perhaps some new praying technique is needed on my part? There are more such incidents, but they followed much the same pattern when I attempted the conventional and accepted approach to prayer. There are, however, more positive prospects to report regarding heaven and hell. If they exist, they are somewhere in Locale 2. In non-physical trips to Locale 2, often there is a layer or area which one must pass through. As mentioned earlier, it seems to be part of Locale 2 closest to here now, and in some way most related. It is a gray-black, hungry ocean where the slightest motion attracts nibbling and tormenting beings. It is as if you are the bait dangling in this vast sea. If you move slowly and do not react to the curious fish who come to investigate, you pass through without much incident. Move violently and fight back, then more excited denizens come rushing in to bite, pull, push, shove. Could this be the borders of hell? It is easy to conclude that a momentary penetration of this nearby layer would bring demons and devils to mind as the chief inhabitants. They seem subhuman, yet have an evident ability to act and think independently. Who and what are they? I don't know. I haven't taken the trouble to stay there long enough to find out. Only by terrified trial and error that I find the method to pass through in reasonable peace. In these worlds where thoughts are not only things, but are everything, including you, your poison or perfection is of your own making. If you are a remorseless killer, you may end up in that part of Locale 2 where all are of the same design. This truly would be hell for such people, for there would be no innocent, defenseless victims. Project this outward, and you can begin to perceive the myriad variations. Your destination in the heaven or hell of Locale 2 seems to be grounded completely within the framework of your deepest constant. Parenthetically, he writes, and perhaps non-conscious. Motivations, emotions, and personality drives. The most consistent and strongest of these act as your homing device when you enter this realm. I am sure of this because it always works this way. When I have traveled non-physically in Locale 2, it works this way whether I want it to or not. The least stray desire at the wrong time or a deep-seated emotion I wasn't aware of diverts my trip in that like direction. Some of the resulting destinations have had all the aspects of hell to me. Others might possibly be construed as heaven, and some differ in practice only slightly from our activities in here now. Okay, that was a long, oh God, there's more right after this. He talks about this unusual event that periodically occurs in Locale 2, and it doesn't matter where you are. There are 3 locales, Locale 1, Locale 2, Locale 3. I am not finished with this book, but I'm getting closer, and because I've got 2 other books on the queue, as you know. I've got, the 2 other books in this series written by Robert Monroe. I also need to read Meetings with Remarkable Men by Gurdjieff and Connected, which is the book by Dr. Roger Nelson, because I have reached out. I'm trying to get Dr. Roger Nelson back on the program sometime in the relatively near future. I have to make sure I consume his book first, and also Gurdjieff, Meetings of Remarkable Men, because last week I started going off on a tirade, or not a tirade, I guess I was going off on a tangent, more of a tangent about, all these people and their connectivity, and, Monroe's connected to Charles Tart, and Tart was a big follower of Gurdjieff, and Dr. Nelson was talking about Gurdjieff's book. If you go back and listen to, I have the episode right here, so, just give me one hot second and I will find it for you. Let's see, Experience 437. which I believe was in December of 2023, if I'm not mistaken, I interviewed Dr. Roger Nelson for the second time, talking about updates and the new vision for the Global Consciousness Project, amongst other things. And he goes into great detail, or into some detail about Gurdjieff. And I got to tell you, I was listening to that. I don't go back and listen to episodes of this. Like, sometimes people will message me or email me about something that I was talking about in a third year bonus, and I honestly I don't even know what they're talking about, because, often as these stream of consciousness things go, I won't remember everything I said. Now, there are certain things that stick with me, like the inevitability of curiosity. That has stuck with me, and the 5 phases of that we spoke about, but but going back and listening to the second conversation, you go back and listen to the first one as well, and it's just as remarkable, but not because of me, because of Roger Nelson. I could listen to that guy talk for years, and he's so insightful, so intelligent, and what a career, what a life he has lived so far. It's still going, used to work at Pear Lab, paranormal, the thing that was in the basement of Princeton that basically the TV show Fringe was based on. I haven't confirmed that yet, but I can almost guarantee you it's based on Pear Labs that Dr. Roger Nelson was a part of for, I think, 20 some years. Anyway, in a basement in Princeton, just some Ivy League anomalous research lab. I mean, how cool is that, right? How cool is that? The stories that guy could tell off mic, I bet. You know what I mean? I gotta somehow figure out a way to go hang out with Dr. Nelson and see if he likes bourbon, because bourbon gets me talking. I don't know about you, but if someone wants to get me talking, all they have to do is pour me a good bourbon, or I get about 1.5 hazy IPAs in me, and I'm a hothead. So I don't know about everybody else, but that's where I'm at on that. So, but the point is, that's fascinating. I mean, we got these 3 locales that Robert Monroe is talking about, out-of-body experiences. I'm listening to an interview that he's on the Monroe Institute YouTube page. It's about 26 minutes long. I highly recommend it. I had to stop myself halfway because I didn't want spoiler alerts for the book that I'm reading. I have, if you have any, familiarity with the program, the Gateway Voyage meditation program, I have progressed to Focus 12. Okay, now I was suspicious that there was another focus above that, which was because there's Focus 10, there's Focus 12. These are like meditation states, or just states of body and mind, right, and consciousness that you need to move into to do certain things. There's Focus 15, which sounds rad. Then there's Focus 20 or Focus 21, I forget what it is. And then it's just like, what? I had no idea, because I'm on threshold 3, I think. I go back and I start over all the time, just because I want to really make sure I remember everything. So I just keep going back and I'm starting over. I do the same ones over and over and over again. So in relation to this, Robert Monroe, by my estimation, he's out there somewhere, paying attention, floating around, out-of-body experiencing, unless he's already regained physical form and is now someone's child, but is a remarkable individual who was, I don't think I've ever gotten into this. So I'm just going to give you a brief, as much as I can, as much as I know it, because obviously I haven't read an autobiography or a biography or whatever. And if there's not, one needs to be written, and we need to make this movie stat. But he was suffering from out-of-body experiences without trying, and he became desperate to try to find a way. And he worked in sound, right? And his company was basically in sound. So they created a research department at his company and started figuring this out and started trying to crack the codes on these. And then through different, I think he said amplitudes, not even frequencies of sound, they were finding they could affect brainwave status and then binaural beats and things like this. And they eventually developed a hemisync technology and things like that's what they use in the Gateway Voyage program. Now, ways to help you get into states where you could meditate, out-of-body experience. He says he was asked in this interview if he liked astral projection. He's not a fan of that because it's kind of woo-woo. I think it was too woo-woo for him. So they tried to stay away from it because it had woo-woo connotations. I am a woo-woo wild one, and I don't mind the connotations. So that's why I love the watering hole in the astral plane. That's how we've been signing off on the show for 12 years almost. So, I love that. So I don't shy away from that. But so that was how his journey started, because it was just happening to him, just without him trying to or understanding what was going on. Can you imagine? I know there's people probably out there listening who have had a similar experience in some kind of way with a phenomena that is, hard to believe for some people. And yet you may be, quote unquote, suffering it or from it or experiencing it regularly without regulation, without being able to control. And maybe you've gone through different things, Reiki attunement, maybe you've done, psychic classes, or maybe who knows what you've done, energy healing, things like that, yoga, to try to harness and control these things. And I think that's probably a good way to go, as opposed to shutting it off as something that, or shutting it away behind a door in your mind and just thinking you might be crazy, because we don't like to think like that over here. So, any hoodles, I do want to read another segment from in Locale 1, Locale 2, and Locale 3. Basically, the gist of it here is, just because it was referenced in that reading that I did, Locale 1 is kind of like almost identical to the physical world that we are aware of, except, it is the physical world, basically. So if I astral projecting, I can fly around and, I can, see what my room looks like when my body is still on my bed and I'm flying around hanging out by the ceiling or whatever, my house or whatever it is. Locale 2 is this other world, right? Where heaven and hell may or may not exist, according to Monroe, and there's these things out there, you know what I mean? Locale 3 is essentially, this is where it gets weirder. Locale 3, it looks like it might be the world, but there are things that are off that make it very, very clear that it is not the same world, even though there are people there and it looks as if it might be. But it's, whether it does that mean it's a parallel dimension or something like that? That is, at least so far, as far as I am in this book, it has not been decided. It doesn't seem like that information has been made privy to Robert at that time that he was writing this. So I don't know, but it's fascinating, interesting stuff. Now, I want to talk about very briefly something else that's mentioned in this interview before I turned it off, about a little over halfway through. It's like a 26-minute long thing, and I don't like spoilers in movies, so. And they were getting into some stuff that is like I know is just right ahead for me, probably reading tonight, so I didn't want to ruin it. Archangels, archetypes were asked. The interviewer asked Monroe, "Well, what are the archangels' archetypes that these beings that you encounter?" And this blew my mind. Are you ready for this? They are past life versions of yourself that are with you and a part of you, and specifically, obviously, assigned to you because they are within and of you. Now, there are these interesting characters that he's encountered up to the point that I'm at in the first book. Like I said, I'll probably be finished with this here by the end of the weekend. But and he doesn't know who they are at this point. And this is super fascinating. Now, how he came into this information, I'm not sure. I'm sure I'll discover that maybe in book 2 or book 3, or maybe by the end of this first book, Journeys Out of the Body. Now, that blew my mind. I don't think I've ever heard of this, that the archangels are the past life versions of ourselves. And there could be countless past life versions of ourselves. So, as he was describing it, the gist of it, from what I took away from it, was that no matter what you encounter in this current life, one of your past life versions will know how to handle it or help you out with it. And it's part of the affirmation, it's like, I also deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or source. Let's see what it says there. I always forget this part. That might provide me with less than my stated desires. Is he talking to himself? It sure sounds like he's been talking to himself this whole damn time. If we were to believe what he's saying. Whoa. That kind of blew my gourd open when I heard that. We're going to take a quick break. Okay. We're not doing like the 4 or 5 commercial breaks anymore. Okay. So we're doing like 20-minute mark, 40-minute mark. So get that fast forward button ready if you want to skip. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, no commercials ever. We're going to be right back. And boy, oh boy, do we have some interesting information news to be telling you soon. Can't let it out of the bag yet. Can't quite let it out yet, but it's coming.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
And I'm back. I hope you've returned. Maybe it's a day later. Maybe it's now. Maybe it's before. Welcome back. We're talking about Robert Monroe. We're talking about Journeys Out of the Body because I was having some experience with this book last night that, okay, let's get into the more personal stuff, if you don't mind. I'm reading this book last night, and there's a section about how he is he's out of bodying. Let's just say that. He's traveling a couple months, 2 or 3 months or so after his father's death. And his father was unable to speak before his death after a stroke. And it got me pretty emotional. It's a pretty emotional section of the book. And it just makes, because you can visualize, and maybe you've already suffered this or gone through this with someone very close to you, someone you love, who maybe has lost the ability to speak and communicate verbally before their death, and then you lose them. You lose their physical form, but we can be rest assured that they are not gone. They are just in a different form, and but even knowing that doesn't provide total comfort, right? Because we want those people physically here in the material world with us. So even knowing that death isn't final or real in the way we think it is, it doesn't make it necessarily easier to live in the physical world without that person. So I want to make sure you understand that I know that I understand that. And anyway, so here's the thing. We can understand how a fire burns. And just because we understand what goes into a fire doesn't mean that it burns less. And the reason I'm bringing that up, I've been covering up my left arm, my forearm, all week because I have a butter bubble burn So I've been using a bubble butter burn bandage, which is fun to say, bubble butter burn bandage. And I also have some slices on my left forearm from cardboard boxes that I picked up like the same day before the bubble burn happened. And so my left forearm is just a mess. It's not for public consumption. So yes, oh my God, because I threw a hamburger patty onto the thing and it burned. It splashed onto my wrist. The butter did. That was on a skillet cooking for a while. Heat up the skillet, let the skillet get super hot, then throw the butter on there, then throw the burger on there after the butter melts and stuff like that. And so that's what I did. And oh boy, it was physical pain I hadn't experienced in quite some time, but it was very Fight Club, is kind of what it looks like on my wrist of the palm side of my hand. Anyway, probably about 2 inches long, this big like worm burn. Anyway, it doesn't make it any easier just because I know kind of how fire works to a certain degree. So, what was I talking about? Oh, so he's talking about his visiting his father. And it's wild and crazy because there's, this very emotional scene unfolding. And then you can't help but put yourself in the author's shoes in many of these instances or situations. And I'm just like overcome with like, oh my God. It was I'm deeply connected to this book is what I'm saying. And I'm really enjoying the reading of it. In the insights that it is providing into my life and into, just the world around me in general. Now, after doing this, after reading and getting a little bit tired, I'm like, I better be saving a little of my energy for some meditation. Usually I do the headphones with the guided meditations. On this particular night, I decided, let me just kind of try to go into a meditation without using the music or the sounds, the technology. And let me see what happens. Let me use some of these tools that I've been learning through these last few months of doing this program, see if I can just get somewhere. Because it was actually through his, reading in the book, he's talking, there's a couple different things where he's detailing past, out-of-body experiences and where he's trying to find very specific people, whether it's his father, and he was just like his non-physical self was just kind of like, his consciousness was like yelling the person's name as he was going into a travel state or traveling in like a homing device was going to be taken to that person. So I start doing that. Right now, I'm not saying I'm reaching the same vibrational state that Robert Monroe was, that caused him to even start trying to figure out what was happening to him. That just kind of happens naturally for him. But I get into a place where I think I'm in a pretty good spot, right? Maybe focus 10, maybe focus 12. At worst, I think I'm at focus 11, right? Which is where your body is asleep, your mind is awake. Focus 12 is when you can perceive more than what your physical body and your physical senses allow you to perceive. Okay, so that's what focus 12 is. That's where you do you want to go try to do some remote viewing and things like that and travel around a little bit. That is focus 12. So at worst, I'm at focus 11, right? And I'm just, I'll just tell you who I wanted to go see. I wanted to go see my grandma and my grandpa. My grandma Clark and my grandpa Clark, very, influential characters in my life growing up and before their deaths. And I, obviously I want to see them again. It was 10 years ago. Gosh, and I've told this story on the show many times. So I won't do it again, but about how my grandfather, it's on my Google Calendar. I put it on my Google Calendar so I wouldn't remember the anniversary of his physical death. I'm not going to distract myself trying to look at my calendar this whole time. So anyway, how I knew he died. I had to leave a comedy show. And then I got a text from my mom, boom, saying that he died. I knew, and right before I got the text, I'm like, I think Grandpa died. Anyway, so I wanted to see those two. And so that's what I'm doing, right? I'm like, trying to get into a vibrational state of where I'm just like blasting off through space-time or whatever, or actually trying to be out of time or out of space anyway, or time, or both maybe. And I'm trying to leave the physical sensations of the overwhelming physical inputs of the physical body, right? Because I think that's the that's the point of Focus 10, Focus 12, and 15, 21, I guess. I haven't gotten to those yet, so I don't know, but you kind of shut off these physical senses. And then what you realize is that your non-physical self can still see, can still hear, can still feel, potentially could even still smell. I mean, so you don't need your physical body to do these things. Isn't that crazy? Right? We think about consciousness and we think about what does consciousness do? And then we think about, okay, what's the physical body do? The physical body serves us many purposes. And, the 5 main senses of the physical world seem to be one of the biggest purposes of the physical body, right? Other than maybe to procreate and keep physical life going, or to be a temporary, container for consciousness to a certain degree, even though we're always spilling out, whether we realize it or not. We're filled to the rim with consciousness brim. Now, I don't know if, there's something I can think of off the top of my head right now that would be a greater purpose of a physical form, other than maybe just the procreation and the continuation of itself in various variations and forms moving forward in perpetuity. It's very self-serving, I suppose. So if I'll just say astral body, I'm going to use that terminology even though Monroe will not. If our astral bodies can see, hear, feel, most likely smell, probably taste, what is... We don't. You see what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying here? It's confounding. We don't attribute consciousness for being responsible for these senses. What if, in fact, the physical body, even though the eyeballs are this is where the idealist in me can't help himself from peeking out behind the nothingness, right? In the immaterial wall. What if the physical body is a direct result of consciousness being able to have these senses? Isn't that wild to think about? That the physical body without consciousness potentially might not have the ability to see, hear, smell, touch, feel. I don't know. I think it probably still does. But it's just something fun to think about in that regard. So, okay, I got sidetracked because I almost forgot that. And that was amazing when I was like hearing this. I'm just like, wow, what does that even mean? And could it potentially mean this? So anyway, I'm blasting off, right? I'm in this meditation. I'm trying to blast off. I don't feel like I'm traveling through space-time necessarily, but I'm just kind of like very loudly saying in my mind, like Grandma Clark. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should go see Monroe. Maybe I should see Robert Monroe, dude. So I'm like, Robert Monroe. Where's Robert Monroe? Take me to Robert Monroe, dude. Take me to your out-of-body later. And all of a sudden, my body, I'm laying down like on a bed when I'm doing this. It's weird. It almost feels like some giant magnet is being like waved over up and down my body. I am the sensation. When you get goosebumps? Imagine if you just became the goosebump. Instead of getting the goosebumps, you would just become Goosebump Incarnate. I think that's maybe the title of this episode. Meditation Goosebumps Incarnate. People would be like, what does this even mean? Why are you naming your shows, eyes of the astral lizard and things like that. And, paranormal meditation, goosebump incarnate. Anyway, MGI. That's what we're going to call it for short, MGI. Meditation, goosebump incarnate. And I am overwhelmed with this physical sensation. It is bonkers. I have not experienced this physical sensation during a meditation previously. Well, let me clarify, not to this scope and not to this level and intensity. I definitely have felt, the shadow or the sneeze of such a feeling. A sneeze do people say that when they say it's like a smaller dose of something? It's it's just a sneeze. Give me a sneeze of salt on this. They don't, they should, and I'm going to. Okay, it's been decided. So, I felt the sneeze of this feeling before, but, which is interesting that I guess I pick sneeze, and there's probably a reason I pick sneeze, because sometimes I'll feel like during a meditation that I'm going to break into an emotional tear session, and I end up sneezing. And I don't sneeze where I meditate. I never sneeze. It only happens when I'm doing the Gateway Voyage meditation stuff. It's the only time it happens to me is when I'm meditating. It's very strange. If anyone else experiences that, I would love to hear from you, because I don't know what it means, and I don't know why it happens, but it's something that definitely has happened a bunch of times, 10 times probably at least for me in the last 2 years. It's just a really weird thing, because you feel like you're going to cry, and then all of a sudden it turns into a sneeze. And it's just like, how did this morph into a sneeze? My mouth decided to cry instead of my eyes. Maybe that's it. Maybe sometimes your mouth needs to cry. So I'm feeling this intense, and I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I am getting ready to blast off to a place that I have never been before. This program is working, and I'm getting ready to go travel through space, time, future, past. There will be no limitations. I figured it out. I'm there. This is what we're working towards, baby. This is this whole thing, This is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And I just have to keep telling myself, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Not because I was getting afraid, but I was trying to send out a message to whoever might be listening. That, listen, I'm not scared. I can do this. Don't stop me from coming. Don't close the door on me, or don't revoke access, or whatever it is I thought might happen. I'm like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. This is all in my head. I'm not screaming this at 1 a.m. My housemates would be like, what is fucking going on up there? What kind of porn is Singer into? So I just keep kind of saying that over and over and over again. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Don't stop. Don't stop. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not afraid. I can handle this. I can handle this. Kind of that vibe. I can handle this. Trust me, I can handle it. Robert Monroe, where are you? Robert Monroe, where are you? I can handle this. I can handle this, Robert Monroe. It's kind of I guess. Now that I'm saying it out loud into a microphone for people to hear, I guess it can sound wild. It can sound, and wild might be a generous word. It can sound crazy, I suppose. I love you. I just took a sip of water. You got to let the water know. And so then this feeling lasts, I would say maybe, which isn't going to sound like a long time, but let me tell you, when it's happening, it feels like an extremely long time. Anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. And it was something that I hope to experience again. And then it went away, and I was kind of sad that it went away. I did start seeing some things visually with my eyes closed, and it's pretty wild. My body, I felt my body, but it was definitely there. The switch was off. My physical, the switch on my physical body was turned off. But I knew it, but I felt that it was there. I start to see these white tower. I see like a white, it's almost like a white tower is starting to appear in total darkness. I see like the tippy top of a, you know how it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, more narrow and more narrow and more narrow. Almost like a Lego tower or something made of white crystalline structure. And then it was gone. Gone. And I felt a little bit emotional, not really. I felt like I was given a glimpse of a place that if I keep working, I can visit. And a sensation, I was given the glimpse of the sensation to understand what to expect. So I was shown where I can go, and I felt what I can expect. And I'll tell you, if the physical sensation of where it just feels like, I'm on one of those, when you see TV shows or you go to a junkyard, they have that giant magnet that picks up the cars. It almost felt like there was some kind of metaphysical magnet like that just above me, like, and I was just like, oh, I'm not afraid, I can handle this. And maybe me just sitting there and like yelling into the astral void, I can handle this. Maybe that's like evidence in itself that maybe I wasn't ready to handle it. Even though I still feel like I was ready. I was here for it. You know what I mean? Ready to handle it. But maybe my yelling that into the astral void would be indicative of maybe this guy's not ready to handle it. Maybe it just needs to be a little more chill. I mean, I am never chill about anything. No, I'm just kidding. Well, this is just my life. I'm just like on full tilt 24/7. That's not true. I hear the music. It looks like we're going to do our last commercial break. I hope you're enjoying the recounting of all of this. I'm going to read probably one more passage from Robert Monroe. And then, here in the very near future, we're going to get back into, giving you some more Dr. Greer Disclosure Project information. And tonight on my agenda, I'm on like 2 or 3 interviews of the Greer podcast behind. Maybe 2. So I'm going to get on that for you. I'm going to try to distill it down into some information that you can understand for next week on a 30-year bonus. But we're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. Okay, I'm back. Earlier I read an excerpt from the section, because the Bible tells me so. And I feel like I need to revisit that because I kind of maybe teased you a little bit with with something that was pretty wild sounding, right? About the thing. A very unusual event periodically occurs, is what the sentence was. And now I want to read to you an excerpt, explaining what that unusual periodic event that occurs in locale 2, which, like I said, is not the physical world, and it's not the one that mirrors or looks very, very close, similar, but something's off about it, right? It's not that either. It's the one that's just like its own place, where you travel when you go out of body, if you get there. In the midst of normal activity, whatever it may be, there is a distant signal. And when he's talking about activity, he's talking about like walking around, exploring. And there's people like walking around doing stuff, right? So in the midst of normal activity, whatever it may be, there is a distant signal, almost like heraldic trumpets. Everyone takes the signal calmly, and with it, everyone stops speaking or whatever he may be doing. It is the signal that he, that's a capital he, by the way, or they, capital they, is coming through his kingdom. There is no awestruck prostration or falling down on one's knees. Rather, the attitude is most matter of fact. It is an occurrence to which all are accustomed, and to comply takes absolute precedence over everything. There are no exceptions. At the signal, each living thing lies down. My impression is they're on their backs, bodies arched to expose the abdomen, not the genitals, with head turned to one side that one does not see him as he passes by. The purpose seems to be to form a living road over which he can travel. I have gleaned the idea that occasionally he will select someone from this living bridge, and that person is never seen or heard from again. The purpose of the abdominal exposure is an expression of faith and complete submissiveness. The abdomen being the most vulnerable part of the body, or the area that can suffer damage most easily. There is no movement, not even thought, as he passes by. Everything has come to a momentary standstill, full and complete, while he passes. In the several times that I have experienced this, I lay down with the others. At the time, the thought of doing otherwise was inconceivable. As he passes, there is a roaring musical sound and a feeling of radiant, irresistible living force of ultimate power that peaks overhead and fades in the distance. I remember wondering once, what would happen to me if he discovered my presence as a temporary visitor? I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. After his passing, everyone gets up again and resumes their activities. There is no comment or mention of the incident, no further thought of it. There is complete acceptance of the event as an ordinary part of their lives, and this is the great yet subtle difference. It is an action as casual as halting for a traffic light at a busy intersection, or waiting at the railroad crossing when the signal indicates that a train is coming. You are unconcerned and yet feel unspoken respect for the power represented in the passing train. The event is also impersonal. Is this God, or God's Son, or his representative? 3 times I have, quote-unquote, gone to a place that I cannot find words to describe accurately. Again, it is this vision, this interpretation, the temporary visitation to this place or state of being that brings the message we have heard so often throughout the history of man. I am sure that this may be part of the ultimate heaven as our religions conceive it. It must also be the nirvana, the samadhi, the supreme experience related to us by the mystics of the ages. It is truly a state of being, very likely interpreted by the individual in many different ways. To me, it was a place or a condition of pure peace, yet exquisite emotion. It was as if you were floating in warm, soft clouds, where there is no up or down, where nothing exists as a separate piece of matter. The warmth is not merely around you, it is of you and through you. Your perception is dazzled and overwhelmed by the perfect environment. The cloud in which you float is swept by rays of light and shapes and hues that are constantly changing, and each is good as you bathe in them as they pass over you, ruby red rays of light. Or something beyond what we know is light, because no light ever felt this meaningful. All the colors of the spectrum come and go constantly, never harshly, and each brings a different soothing or restful happiness. It is as if you are within a part of the clouds surrounding an eternally glowing sunset. And with every changing pattern of living color, you also change. You respond and drink into you the eternity of the blues, yellows, greens, and reds, and the complexities of the intermediates. All are familiar to you. This is where you belong. This is home. As you move slowly and effortlessly through the cloud, there is music around you. It's not something of which you become aware. It is there all the time, and you vibrate in harmony with the music. Again, this is more than the music you knew back there. It is only those harmonies, the delicate and dynamic melodic passages, the multi-voiced counterpoint, the poignant overtones. It is only those that have evoked in you the deep, incoherent emotion back there. The mundane is missing. Choirs of human-sounding voices echo in wordless song. Infinite patterns of strings and all shades of subtle harmony interweave in cyclical yet developing themes, and you resonate with them. There is no source from which the music comes. It is there, all around you, in you. You are a part of it, and it is you. It is the purity of a truth of which you have had only a glimpse. This is the feast, and the tiny tidbits you tasted before back there had made you hope for the existence of the whole. And when he's talking about back there, by the way, like these moments where you've had throughout your life, your physical living life, your waking life, where you've just experienced great joy, maybe in nature, watching a waterfall, or you you dip into a hot spring for the first time, or a hot tub even, right? Or you're just laying in a field on a blanket for a picnic and the sun is shining and it's perfectly warm. And you're just feeling at bliss, at ease, and perfect harmony with nature and the world around you. And you almost have like an epiphany of sorts. Those kind of moments. That's what he's talking about. And he's talking those pale in comparison, that they are tidbits. They in comparison to this feast of that feeling. So, the nameless emotion, longing, nostalgia, sense of destiny that you felt back there when you stared at the cloud-layered sunset in Hawaii, when you stood quietly among the wall, waving trees in the silent forest, when a musical selection, passage, or song were called memories of the past, or brought forth a longing for which there was no associated memory, when you longed for the place where you belonged, whether city, town, country, nation, or family, these are now fulfilled. You are home. You are where you belong, where you always should have been. More important, you are not alone. With you, beside you, interlocked in you are others. They do not have names, nor are you aware of them as shapes, but you know them, and you are bonded to them with a single great knowledge. They are exactly like you. They are you, and like you, they are home. You feel with them, like gentle waves of electricity passing between you, a completeness of love, of which all facets you have experienced are but segments and incomplete portions. Only here the emotion is without need of intense display or demonstration. You give and receive as an automatic action with no deliberate effort. It is not something you need or that needs you. The reaching out is gone. The interchange flows naturally. You are unaware of differences in sex. You yourself, as a part of the whole, are both male and female, positive and negative, electron and proton. Man, woman, love moves to you and from you, parent, child, sibling, idol and ideal. All interplay in soft waves about you, in you, and through you. You are perfect balance because you are where you belong. You are home. Within all of this, yet not a part of it, you are aware of the source of the entire span of your experience, of you, of the vastness beyond your ability to perceive and or imagine. Here you know and easily accept the existence of the Father, your true Father, the creator of all that is or was. You are one of his countless creations. How or why, you do not know. This is not important. You are happy simply because you are in the right place, where you truly belong. Monroe writes beautifully in describing this place. And boy, oh boy, why wouldn't you go there every time you blast off, Robert? Hey, Bobby, why aren't you going home every time you blast off in an out-of-body experience? You might be asking that question because I was asking that question in my mind before I read the next few sentences. I'm not going to keep reading from the book. That was a long enough passage indeed. But he talks about how when coming back, upon returning from such a place, such a perfect, peaceful place, he was sad. Sad to be back. Sound familiar? Is this ringing a bell? Have you heard of the near-death experience where people talk about, I didn't want to leave this feeling, this sensation. I didn't want to come back. I felt so light. I felt so encompassed. I felt I was love and surrounded by it. Pain was no longer something that existed. You hear these themes in near-death experiences very, very often. And they oftentimes are pulled back or are convinced to go back because it's not your time. It's not your time. You got to go back. It's not your time. It's like, but I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. This place is awesome. You know, it's like when you don't want to go to sleep when you're having a slumber party as a kid. It's like, I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want this to ever end. Because as soon as we go to bed, we wake up in some morning and it's over. It's no more. Monroe is describing this place, and it's the exact same place. And during the interview that is on the Monroe Institute YouTube channel, the interviewer asks him, as Monroe is going through the different brain states, meditation, daydreaming. So it's daydreaming, deeper, deeper out of body is meditation, and then, sleep, and then, out of body experience, which can be like 90% mental, 10% physical, or whatever, right? Or you're 90% out of your body at that point, or whatever it is, his percentage. You can go listen to it. The guy goes, well, I'm going to guess that 100%, when you get to 100%, that means you're dead. And Monroe goes, you nailed it. That's right. So, hearing this, it makes me believe, it makes me understand that if one were to be able to master the art of out-of-body experience, which is a natural state, I'm certain, you can go to the place where the spirit lives, where many, many people consider it to be the afterlife. This is a place that you have access to in an out-of-body experience. The difference between the out-of-body experience and the near-death experience is the finality of, considering the multitude of lives that I believe that we live, I would say finality might not be the right word, but the finality of this particular segment of your journey. Your physical identity. It's the finality of your physical identity when you have death. And it is, so it's a little more permanent. But the near-death experience and the out-of-body experience, actually, let me clarify that. It's not correct what I'm saying. I've got it kind of confused. The near-death experience is most oftentimes it is a unexpected event where you'll be traveling out of body. Now, the out-of-body experience, when you're trying to do it, obviously is expected, or it's what you're going for, even though you might get something you don't expect. Or you might be like Robert Monroe, and it might just happen to you, and you try to figure out what it is. But the difference is there is something that is threatening to end your physical life during the near-death experience, and that's not happening during the out-of-body experience. What is also interesting is in that passage he talked about things at the very beginning of this episode. And the reason I marked that specifically is because I need to mention that to a friend of mine who's been on the program before. But we were at my stepmom retired after, a great, great career. So I was in Ohio and we were celebrating her accomplishments. And I was talking with him and he starts mentioning when he was a kid, he used to travel out of body all the time, but then, people kept trying to pull him out. So he stopped because he's like, they were like demons or something, or like they were dark and like they were trying to like pull me out and take over my body or something, right? And so he stopped doing it. And he basically described almost identical to what I just read here in this book. That was written 60 years ago. So I think that's interesting, and I got to make sure I mention that to him. But, legendary stand-up comedian Sinbad has talked about how he doesn't astral project anymore because he's worried about, a demon taking over his body. This is, the number one concern, probably, maybe tied with, what if I can't get back? What if I can't get back to the body or something like that, right? So, yeah, it's fascinating, interesting stuff. And, I'm hoping to be getting there very soon, and I will be, relaying that transmission of, everything I can remember and the things that I experience to you when I come back from that. If especially if it's pertinent information. Now, you might already be doing this. You might be like, "Hey, all right, guy, yesterday's news," and hey, good for you. I'd love to hear about it. So reach out to me if you've been astral projecting or having out-of-body experiences, if you'd rather describe it as that. Like, I need to know. Like, what's your history with this? What are your feelings? Monroe also talks about if you're having a dream about flying, You were astral projecting. I've had a ton of dreams of flying over time. That's how your body is processing having an out-of-body experience in your memory, right? And then whenever you fall back, you feel like you're falling, that's you coming back in your body, most certainly, from an out-of-body experience. So I just thought I would let you know that, to remind you of that. You've been doing it probably, because everyone's had those two dreams, or those two sensations, right? So, yeah. Anyway, great news coming up soon. I promise. I'm not going to tease this out too long. RyanSingerComedy.com's got tour dates. I'm out on the road all summer. I hope to see you there. Follow me on Instagram, at RySing. That'd be great too. TikTok, Ryan Singer Comedy. But, yeah, in the meantime, come out and see me do stand-up comedy this summer. I guarantee you we'll have a good time. And if I don't see you, I guess I'll just have to see you at the watering hole on the Astral Plane.